Alright, all you budding iRacers, have I got a treat for you today? We're going to have a deep dive into the Pimax CRYSTAL and why you need it for iRacing. Okay, so to start off, we're going to have a look at the technical specs. We're going to focus on the clarity here, even though we will dive into the audio and the microphone a little bit later. We're going to do a comparison to the fan favourite, the Reverb G2. Then we're going to have a look at comfort, endurance, and a few little quirks that potentially could be drawbacks. I did find something specifically for me that I'm going to work through. Okay, and then we're going to talk about the setup process, using Openxr versus SteamVR, and which one you may want to go for. And then the last of all, we're going to dive into Foveated Rendering, why it's the future, and why we need it in our lives. Okay, and then to wrap up, I'm going to explain why you need this headset in your life. Alright, let's have a look at it. Alrighty, so let's have a dive into this. So the first point we're looking at is the technical specs and predominantly the clarity here. Now, the reason that we are so excited for this headset and why it's caused such a stir for the sim racing market is the 35 ppd lenses. Now, to explain why that's important, basically VR, most people's brains are trying to compute why this isn't real. So we're always looking for a reason to disbelieve the situation they're in, and any kind of, any reason that our brains have to not understand what's going on will cause discomfort. Now, increasing the resolution, that's one means of fixing it. 120 hertz, that's another means. So this headset has both of those, and if we have a look into the technical specs here, it has QLED lenses with mini LED displays. Now, I've been a big fan of QLEDs in the past, currently using an OLED for a monitor, but that's mainly for input lag purposes. But for my main TV, I have an 8K mini LED display, and I love it. All the extra zones and the backlight control and everything, we are going to get some amazing picture quality out of this headset. Okay, so now the refresh rate that we have here accessible, as you can see, is 90 or 120 hertz. It does have 144 or 160 in testing mode. Now currently we have 90 hertz available to us and 120 hertz in testing mode. Alright, so the audio quality. Now, am I impressed? Yes. Am I an audiophile that would rather be wearing the very nice set of headphones that I have behind me? Also yes. Is it good enough? Very much so. So these headphones, if you've come from the Valve headset or the Reverb G2, you'll feel right at home with these over-ears. So I do believe the quality, the soundstage at least, is a little bit wider with this headset. Very, very happy with this headset. Secondary, the microphone. Oh my gosh, it is amazing. It is actually clearer than this microphone I'm using right here. So the Antlion wireless microphone, which is the one that I use to do a lot of these recordings when I'm not at the sim rig. Good microphone, good to add to any headset, but I have been blown away by how clear the crystal microphone is. So we are expecting some wider field of view lenses, but currently we have 35 ppd available to us in the glass lenses, and even though Pimax is stating 125, most reviewers are finding that it's actually around 102 to 103, 104 degrees field of view on the horizontal axis. Now that's fine. That is more than my G2. I find that I don't need something super wide. If down the track we can increase that to say 120, I'll be stoked. I think from the maths that I did, 120 would drop us down to around 28 ppd, which is still much higher than we've ever seen. Yeah, so overall, good field of view. The pupillary distance, 58 to 72. We're going to have a bit of a look at that later and why that may or may not be an issue. Manual or automatic IPD. The lenses go very cool. The speakers, the DMS speakers, they are amazing. I cannot tell you how good they are. They're definitely better than the Valve speakers that I'm currently using, I was using on my Reverb G2. The dimensions, it's quite a large headset. Comes with a DP cable. Eye tracking, big one here, 120 hertz with sub-degree accuracy, so it's going to track where your eyes are going, and we'll dive into this a bit later, but that's very useful for foveated rendering. I'm sure it has other uses. And this is a PCVR as well as a standalone headset. So it does have a Snapdragon XR2 chipset in it, 256 gigabytes of memory to store your games and applications, whatever you want on it. And yes, the main downside of that, there are benefits, but the main downside is it has a battery. Okay, so the battery is I thought it was 6,000 milliamp hour. Yes, sorry, it does have two 6,000 milliamp hour batteries, and a 120 milliamp hour battery that is built into the back of the headset. Now that allows you to hot swap. You want to be running. You've got a minute to get the battery out, run it over to your charging station, and put that back in. So there's a little bit of a process there, but it is definitely possible to hot swap a battery and not jump out of the session, whatever session you're in. Okay, so point number 1, technical specs. Number 2, endurance and comfort. Okay, so I have currently worn this headset in iRacing for around 3 hours. Long story short, I did have a little bit of discomfort. It is a very comfortable headset, but the main point of concern for me is my IPD. Okay, so I have a 58mm IPD, and what that means is it's at its narrowest setting, okay? Now, the lenses are quite bulky, you'd call them, just to get the, I can imagine, to get the rounding that's required to distort the image, you know, what we're seeing. But what that means is my Italian nose here is being crushed a little bit. So when I'm putting the headset on, I'm pulling it forward, putting it in the right position. There's no way for the bridge of my nose to not be hitting the lenses. Okay, so and I can imagine if you're somewhere in the realms of the low 60s, definitely in the 50s is going to be happening, but it can definitely be an issue if you're doing rapid movements. Now, I have come up with a little solution. I put 2 little bits of foam that sit on my nose, kind of like you'd imagine like your glasses, okay? So it is a point of contact for me, and I will be working through that. And I'll be chasing different gaskets to see what I can do to fix it. Maybe a thicker gasket should definitely fix the problem. But yeah, other than that, I'm just going to have to go get a nose job. Okay, so the other parts of the comfort, the headset, is it balanced correctly? Yes, it is balanced correctly. It is amazing. Very, very, very comfortable headset. The gasket is the comfort gasket, which comes pre-installed, and well, it did on my headset. Very good. It primarily balances on the top of your head. The weight distribution is fine. I cannot see any issues for comfort other than the low IPD users like myself. But yeah, this is amazing. This is the most comfortable headset that I've worn apart from my nose. Okay, so let's look at the setup process here. Now, this might be a bone of contention, but I'm currently using SteamVR. Now, the reason for that is I'm finding there are a few little quirky things in Openxr that I haven't been able to solve. One of which is the audio. I seem to be having like a bit of a delay. I'm very sensitive to audio delays. Bit of a self-confessed audiophile, but it was enough that I couldn't kind of deal with it. And the other one that I found was I kind of wasn't getting the frame rate that I was expecting with Openxr. I didn't really have the benefits of getting rid of the SteamVR backend. So anyway, we've ended up in SteamVR for iRacing. Now, the other benefit for that is RaceLab overlays. They are native in SteamVR. Now, one of the benefits of using SteamVR versus Openxr, from a developer standpoint, is Openxr has no backend to add overlays. So there's no real good way of writing an image onto the screen. So I know OpenKnee has a solution, but it's a bit of a workaround, and you can only really cast one screen onto your display, which I like to have at least my standings and my relatives just so I like to be able to see the safety and also tires at a glance. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the Pimax client here. All right, so as you can see, I'm in device settings and we are in 120 Hertz lab mode. So as I said, it's meant to be running natively at 120 Hertz eventually, but in the current iteration of this software, which is the beta software, I'm running in the 120 Hertz lab mode with the backlight set to 80%. Okay, so that backlight being a little bit lower, I'm finding it's still bright enough, and it also, I believe, helps with a little bit more contrast and a little bit less blooming. Anyway, so the eye tracking, I have the eye tracking ticked. I don't really have any need for the eye tracking at the moment because I'm using SteamVR and I'm not using the Foveated Rendering. But eye tracking is ticked. Auto IPG adjustment, that was amazing. It told me my exact IPD, which was 58 millimeters, so right on the boundary of having this headset work for me. And it did prove that the G2 didn't quite have the finesse, wasn't on the low end, so I was a bit blurry in it, so some potential there maybe. Wearing location reminder, I love having this one checked. So when I lift the headset up and I put it back on, it shows me a display that says move it up, down, you know, your headset's in the right position. It'll give you a tick when you're in the right position and you're good to go, and it'll disappear off the screen. Alrighty, so we're going to jump into SteamVR here, and we're going to go into the per application settings because I like some customization. Now, what I've landed on is motion smoothing off, right? So I don't want it to think I'm going to drop under the 120 Hertz mode, cut my frame rate in half just so it looks smooth. I'm not keen for that. So I'm finding with my current system, which is albeit quite powerful, I'm running a 4090 and a 5800 X3D chip with quick RAM. I've landed on 63% rendering resolution, which is a total of 3576 by 4232 per eye. Okay, now that is a really high resolution, and I'm finding that the clarity is clearer long distance than my Samsung G9 behind me. Now, I did not expect that, but yeah, amazing. Alright, so the question on everyone's lips, how hard of a headset is this to run? The answer is quite hard. So at my current resolution, I'm running essentially around 3.5 to 4 times 4K resolution. Now that is a lot of pixels to push. Now, have I been surprised that I've been able to get 120 Hertz? Yes, I am. Now, I'm not really dropping any frames under that, even in packed multiplayer servers. So that is outstanding. I am on quite a powerful system though. So I currently am running a 5800 X3D stock clocks, and I'm running 3866 CL16 memory, 64 gigabytes of that, and a 4090. Okay, so it is quite powerful, I understand, but you have to remember that we're all chasing frame rate here. Now, it is a matter of compromise. Do you need a 4090? Do you need an X3D chip? No, you definitely do not. If you're willing to run this headset with potentially motion smoothing or in the 90 Hertz mode, or the biggest one is dropping that resolution down, it is still going to be so clear. This headset is going to be so clear, so much clearer than anything you've used before, including the Aero I've heard. But you are going to have to compromise in one of those aspects, be it resolution or the refresh rate. Okay, so foveated rendering. This is a big one. So the beauty of this headset is that it has Tobii eye tracking built into it. Now, Tobii eye tracking essentially has a means of tracking where your eyes are looking, okay? So now the beauty of that is if you have the right back end with foveated rendering enabled in the game, the rendering engine, I should say, what that can do is it can render exactly where you're looking extremely sharp, okay? So, beg my pardon. We can only focus on quite a narrow area. Everything else is out of focus. So what's the point of rendering this big, huge frame at a high resolution? So the aim of foveated rendering is to increase system performance by using eye tracking to only render exactly where you're looking. Okay, so unfortunately at the moment, I didn't have too much luck running the foveated rendering in iRacing. I'm sure it's going to improve, but at the moment, I have much better success just running SteamVR. The foveated rendering, whilst it did work, and I will show you on screen right now it working and what it looks like, I didn't quite hit the performance numbers that I was hoping for with Openxr, and I was tossing up the benefits of having my overlays natively versus a single overlay with open kneeboard. And yeah, I definitely landed back in SteamVR for this headset. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you've made it this far, I'd like to invite you to hit the like button right now, subscribe if you want to see more, and if you have any further questions, just feel free to ask. I know I'm one of the fortunate few with these headsets, and more than happy to have a deep dive into anything that anyone has any issues with, anyone that's on the fence, more than happy to answer questions, so chuck them down in the comment section, and I will be responding to all of them. I'll be doing some more videos very soon. I'm going to have a look at DCS World, Flight Sim, another favourite of mine. But yeah, I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.